Super going viral. Last night, the Jets drafted USC quarterback Sam Darnold 3rd overall. He's going to be the Jets' quarterback of the future. However, the Jets do have Josh McCown on the roster still. Yesterday, he posted on Twitter, "Since posting texts is a thing now, from my oldest daughter after we drafted Sam Darnold." Quote, "He's less than a year older than me." Crazy. Wow, thanks, Bridge.
That's awesome. Darnold and McCown's daughter the same age.
He's been making money for a long time. That ain't no bad problem to have.
And see, while you don't love Josh McCown as a starting quarterback, as a mentor, as a guy to help the transition for Sam
Darnold. And also, he's a guy that spends a lot of time in the film room. Great guy to learn from, different coverages. Also, takes care of his body. At a late age, training a young player how to do those things are vital. Sometimes even more important than the football, getting their mind and their body right to play.
All right, time for some stories to start your morning now. Last night, the Bucks defeated the Celtics 97-86, forcing a Game 7 on Saturday. Giannis Antetokounmpo led the way for Milwaukee with 31. Nick, did you think this was going to go 7 games?
I did. I picked Bucks in 7. I'll stick with it. But Giannis is going to have to be even better than he was last night. He was bad in Game 5. He was awesome last night. On the road in Game 7, CC, he's going to have to be even better than the 33 and 14 he gave you last night.
Yeah, I thought the Celtics would have closed them out by now. I thought they might have won the series 4-2. But their bench, Milwaukee, they found it. They're starting to hit some three-pointers. Giannis is getting the support. Besides Middleton, he wasn't getting that much support. And Bledsoe, after those first 2 games getting lit up, he's played a lot better basketball.
Absolutely.
All right, moving on. DJ Moore from the University of Maryland will be joining forces with Cam Newton, and Calvin Ridley will be joining Julio Jones and the Falcons. Those two were the only 2 receivers drafted in the first round this year, the fewest since 2010. CC, what do both these guys need to do to be successful?
I'm excited where they're going. DJ Moore from the University of Maryland, really a great runner with the football after he catches it. The thing that I like is a lot of the receivers haven't been successful when they're drafted at this point. From 15 on to 32, hadn't had a great track record recently, but neither one of these guys, being Ridley, he's got Julio Jones, DJ Moore, he's got a number of other receivers that will be the main targets for the team, so the pressure won't be on them to immediately be a star, be the #1 guy, because neither one is a #1 guy yet.
I think for all receivers in the league, the ideal situation is to be opposite Julio. When the defense is going to be skewed to Julio, you're going to get single coverage. You're going to get the second corner instead of the first corner. So for Ridley, I'm excited for him. And the Panthers need a guy like DJ Moore. They've been trying to find Cam a true #1 receiver since Steve Smith left. Steve Smith said on TV, they finally replaced me. We'll see if he's right.
All right, North Carolina State defensive end Bradley Chubb was drafted 5th overall by John Elway and the Broncos. Many had this team taking a quarterback or drafting up to get a quarterback. Von Miller was excited about his new teammate, though, Bradley Chubb, yesterday. Nick, how will Chubb fit in with the Broncos?
I think it's a great pick. I don't think they thought he would be there at number 5. I think they were surprised when Cleveland passed on him at 4. Now you bookend him with Von Miller. They're clearly going to go with Case Keenum at quarterback and trying to go back to the Super Bowl the way they won their most recent Super Bowl. Peyton Manning was just average at best that year.
Yeah.
They had a dominant defense. They're trying to recreate.
They have 3 #1s now at defensive end. They have Shane Ray from Missouri, who's approaching that 5th-year option. What do they do with him moving forward? But also, Von was excited about Chubb before the draft. Von also has been a good mentor to younger players there in Denver. So taking him in as the young Cub, I look for much success from them. Also, does this extend Von Miller's career, having the guy on the other side? Like when I Randy Moss.
Well,
sure enough, help the brother out.
With the 2nd overall pick in the 2018 NFL Draft, the New York Giants chose Penn State running back Saquon Barkley. The Giants haven't had a player rush for 1,000 yards since 2012. CC, did the Giants make the right call selecting Saquon with that #2 pick?
I think they did. They got the best player in the draft and the cleanest player. He has no character flaws. He is a pure athlete. He's going to show up early. He's going to stay late. He's been loved at every level he's played at in the locker room. His high school team, the coaches rant and rave about him at Penn State. James Franklin, you cannot say enough good things about him. And also, I saw him at Ohio State playing against the Buckeyes. To me, I feel like I had an advantage this year because I saw Baker play against the Buckeyes. I saw Barkley play against the Buckeyes. And talking to the staff there, Man, he's a phenomenal player. He's ready for pro football. Now, Penn State, they haven't produced a lot of running backs. To me, I think he's the best running back in Penn State's great running back history, and that's what the Giants got.
So listen, I think he might be the best player in this draft. I also think you can argue this was not the right pick for the Giants. Just simply listen, Dave Gettleman said they didn't get any great offers for the number 2 pick, so maybe they would have liked to trade down, but they didn't get that amazing bounty of picks you would need to warrant trading back. But when you're the New York Giants right now, and you've got the oldest quarterback in your conference, and he also, in my estimation, is not one of the 7 or 8 best quarterbacks in the conference, and you have a chance to take Darnold or Rosen, or maybe they love Josh Allen. I didn't, but maybe they would have. You have to be competing for a Super Bowl in the next 2 or 3 years to justify not setting yourself up with the quarterback moving forward. Now, maybe they think Odell back. Eli with his weapons back. Got a left tackle now. Got this dynamic running back. Don't forget about Evan Ingram and Sterling Shepard. We can go compete for our division and a championship right now. If they do that, you understand it. But if it's 9 wins, 10 wins, and then Eli retires and they don't have a guy there, then no matter how good Saquon is, it's hard to justify that pick.
Unless they think they've got 3 or 4 more years in Eli Manning, which is hard to believe based on what we saw last year. All right, speaking of the draft, it started off with Heisman. It did when Heisman Trophy winner Baker Mayfield went first overall to the Cleveland Browns. Quarterback who walked onto 2 different schools, now the face of the Browns franchise. And to break that and everything else NFL related down, we welcome in college football analyst Joel Klatt. Hey Joel, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you guys this morning?
We are great. I'm sure it's been a late night for you. We've had you on for the last couple months, getting us prepared for this. I don't think many people thought weeks and weeks ago that Baker Mayfield was going to go number 1, and then only in the last 24 to 48 hours his name popped up there. How shocked were you that the Browns chose him first?
Yeah, I think that was the biggest surprise. Not necessarily like during the draft, because we had been prepared for that for about, the 20 to 24 hours leading up to the draft. That word was starting to leak out of Cleveland. I thought John Dorsey did a great job of hiding that pick until that late hour. But that was the biggest surprise for me, because this entire time we thought that Sam Darnold was really the consensus, almost the unanimous choice for them at number 1, and then everything was going to get slotted after that. But the fact that Sam Darnold then slips to 3, and then the other 2 quarterbacks slip down a little bit lower than maybe we had projected them going in the top 6 initially, I think that was obviously a big surprise. Now, I will say that Cleveland's other selection was also a big surprise. I did not think they were going to go with Denzel Ward. That was not something that was prevalently thought of. And that led to my second most surprising pick, which was the fact that Bradley Chubb, who you guys have just talked about, now playing with Von Miller at Denver. And I think John Elway and Gary Kubiak and everybody in Denver on the decision-making side was thrilled that Chubb was available, because they're going to get to follow the blueprint that led to their last Super Bowl, just as Nick mentioned. And I think Von Miller and Bradley Chubb all of a sudden now make one of the best tandem pass rushers in the National Football League. And that's what they have to do, and that's what they're going to have to continue to excel at while they figure out this quarterback position. They hope that they have addressed this with Case Keenum, but now we'll wait and see.
Joel, I believe that if the Jets had the number 1 overall pick, they would have taken Sam Darnold. They went into a few weeks ago, they had the number 6 pick. They move up to 3. They still get Sam Darnold. I'm sure they're thrilled with the pick. How successful do you think he will be with the Jets, who haven't had a quarterback since Vinny Testaverde, maybe? What do you think of it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was in Mile High Stadium, the old Mile High Stadium, when Bill Parcells brought that Jets team with Vinny Testaverde to an AFC Championship game. I know that they've gone to the subsequent AFC Championship games with Mark Sanchez, but this was a good pick. I mean, a great trade to get up to 3. You get their number 1 guy. I fully agree with you. If they had the number 1 pick, they would have taken Sam Darnold. As soon as Baker was selected and it was actually official, there was a bit of a frenzy there for number 2. Denver tried to get up to number 2 because Sam Darnold was the number 1 quarterback on their board. Ultimately, they couldn't get it done because New York, the Giants were asking for just too much, and that led to the Jets being able to sit there, not have to move, and get their number 1 guy. That is a great night if you're a Jets fan. I thought Sam Darnold was the safest quarterback available in this draft. He makes everybody around him better. You have to understand now, this guy has already rescued a franchise. I mean, his coach was going to get fired within weeks. I'm telling you, within weeks, Clay Helton was going to get fired after that 1-2 start and losing 52-6 to Alabama. It was doom and gloom at USC, one of the most proud programs in college football. And this guy was inserted into the lineup, and all of a sudden they're beating Penn State in the Rose Bowl. So he's done this before, and I think it's that type of mentality that's going to allow him to go in there in a really positive room with Josh McCown, who you guys have talked about. I was with Josh in Detroit, one of the greatest men in the NFL. He's going to mentor Sam Darnold. That's a great fit for Sam Darnold, and I really believe that Sam's going to have a lot of success. I don't know if it's going to come right away, but eventually he's going to have a lot of success, and I believe he's going to be one of the top 10, 11 quarterbacks in the National Football League within 3 or 4 years.
Joel, with the surprise of Baker Mayfield going #1 to Cleveland, we started to see the quarterback starting to slide. Darnold usually slided there at number 3. We also saw Josh Allen to the Bills, and then, of course, we saw Nick's guy to Arizona at number 10. Were you bothered by Josh Rosen's comments about how the 9 teams previously picked before him, that he was pissed off and he would make them pay for it?
Yeah. CC, I think it matters where and when you heard them first. So, like, can you tell guys? You tell me, like, where did you read them first? Did you hear them first? Like, where did you first see those comments?
Saw him
live. I heard him live. I heard him right after when he did the interview. Sit down. I heard him live, not the sound bites in the morning.
Okay, so I was doing the radio with Kurt Menefee, Jay Glazer, and Chris Spielman. So he actually came up and sat with us for about 3 or 4 minutes last night. And so I hadn't seen any interviews or read anything during, because we're just doing the draft on the radio. And so when he sits with us, Chris Spielman basically asked him, like, how do you feel? And that was, he gave that answer right away. And sitting right next to him, it was genuine. And it was almost prophetic, and I just caught that air about it, because I did not think that there was an air of arrogance about it or anything along those lines. I got the sense that this guy was very motivated. He's an extremely talented player. He's obviously a very smart guy. He's willing to speak his mind. And sitting right next to him, I was not bothered at all, to answer your question. And in fact, if I was a fan of the Arizona Cardinals, I would be jacked up, because I'm like, hey, we just got the most NFL-ready quarterback. We didn't have to move up as far as we thought we were going to have to move up to do that, and he's motivated at this point. So you got the most talented guy who's maybe the one now with the biggest chip on his shoulder. That's a powerful scenario, and I think Cardinal fans should be really happy about it.
Hey, Joel, the 5th quarterback in the first round was Lamar Jackson. A lot of people wondered where he would go, who wanted to take him. We talked all week about the Patriots maybe being interested. They passed on him twice. The Baltimore Ravens grabbed him. How do you think he will fit in Baltimore?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting fit regardless of where Lamar was going to go, because his skill set is so unique and brilliant. I mean, the guy is one of the most brilliant players I've seen and evaluated in a long time. And his tape is extraordinary. Youngest player to win the Heisman Trophy. He got better as a passer every single year under a guy in Bobby Petrino, his head coach, who's very difficult to play for. Okay, there's some coaches that coddle their quarterbacks. Bobby Petrino is not one of them. So you know that Lamar Jackson is coachable, that he can take that criticism and go and apply it on the field and become a better and more efficient passer. He got to his 2nd and 3rd progression, man in the progression a lot more in his last year. So I think it's a good fit. The thing that I think is interesting is that normally you see teams follow their own blueprint, right, or their own philosophy. And he's nothing like Joe Flacco. Now, he's not very similar to anybody, and granted, I'll grant you that. But with all the moves that they've made at that position, it seems like they want to get away from the type of offense that Joe Flacco has flourished under, which is kind of stand there and just be outside the numbers and down the field. So maybe we're seeing a little bit of a philosophy change overall for the Baltimore Ravens, as this was the last draft, remember, for Ozzie Newsome.
All right, Joel, we're almost out of time. Just real quick, I want to look ahead, because the rounds 2 and 3 on Fox tonight.
Okay.
What are you looking most forward to in round 2 tonight?
Well, there's some really good players available. First of all, Darius Geis of LSU is available. Connor Williams, the tackle from Texas, he's available. And Will Hernandez, the guard from UTEP, is available. I think those might be the 3 best players that are still available. I expect them to go in the top 5. And then the last thing that I'm most excited for, I cannot wait for Shaq Griffin to walk out on that stage, guys. I mean, this guy, I fully believe he's going to get drafted tonight. And Shaquem Griffin is a great football player, AAC Defensive Player of the Year, with one hand since 4 years old. I can't wait till he walks out there and gets that jersey and is selected in the National Football League.
It's a great story. Joel, thank you so much for joining us. Really, really appreciate it. Coming up here on the show is Baker Mayfield, the answer in Cleveland, next on First Things First.